Ẹ káàbọ̀ ẹ̀yin èèyàn mi. Remember that age-old question, where do we come from? Well, for the Yoruba people, it's a tale full of twists. We've journeyed through myths and dug into archaeology, but today's episode tackles a popular theory. Are the Yoruba people originally from Mecca or Egypt? We've heard whispers of Mecca and Egypt, right? But how do these claims hold up against the evidence unearthed by archaeologists? Buckle up, because we're separating fact from fiction. Picture this: the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Egyptology is all the rage, and there's a fascination with linking African history to the Middle East. Scholars, especially those focused on Afrocentric ideas, tried to link African groups like the Yoruba to ancient civilizations like Egypt and Ethiopia. This was an attempt to reclaim African history by associating cultures like the Yoruba to the majesty of civilizations like ancient Egypt. Here's where Samuel Johnson comes into the picture. He was a scholar who argued for a Yoruba-Mecca connection. His influential book, The History of the Yorubas, became a cornerstone of this theory. He passionately wrote, and I quote, "That the Yorubas came originally from the East, there cannot be the slightest doubt, as their habits, manners, and customs, and so on, all go to prove. With them, the East is Mecca, and Mecca is the East. Having strong affinities with the East, and Mecca in the East looming so largely in their imagination, everything that comes from the East with them comes from Mecca. And hence, it is natural to represent themselves as having hailed originally from that city." Now, Johnson wasn't alone. Sultan Bello of Sokoto, a prominent figure in 19th century Nigeria, also added fuel to the fire. When British explorer Captain Clapperton visited Bello, the Sultan described the Yoruba kingdom, or Yoruba as he called it, with grand pronouncements, emphasizing its vastness and intriguing features. Sultan Bello stated, and I quote, "Yoruba is an extensive province containing rivers, forests, sands, and mountains, as also a great many wonderful and extraordinary things." But the Sultan didn't stop there. He proposed a different origin story. He believed that the Yoruba people, or Yoruba, as he referred to them, were descended from the remnants of the Canaanites, specifically from the tribe of Nimrod. Wait. Nimrod. Lamurudu. Do you see where Lamurudu came from? Interesting, isn't it? The Sultan's theory suggests a migration from Arabia driven by Yoruba, son of Khatan, towards the western coast of Africa, eventually settling in the Yoruba heartland. He even suggested that as they journeyed, they left behind groups of their people, forming other tribes along the way. While these narratives are intriguing, remember they often reflect the understanding and beliefs of the time. So the question is, do these claims hold water? Well, modern archaeology tells a different story. Forget pyramids and camels. The real Yoruba origin story starts right here in West Africa, specifically around the Niger-Benue Confluence. The real Eureka moment points to the Niger-Benue Confluence, a region in present-day Nigeria, as the ancestral homeland of the Yoruba people. And guess what? We're talking thousands of years ago, long before any proposed migrations from the Middle East. Archaeological evidence points to Proto-Yoruboid speakers living in this region as early as the 3rd century BC. That's over 2,000 years ago. And even then, they had been at the Niger-Benue Confluence for more than 2,500 years. We're talking about a 4,500-year-old history. These folks were resourceful, adapting to the diverse landscape, farming, hunting, and creating a vibrant culture. By the 3rd century BC, Proto-Yoruboid speakers were already thriving in this region. They lived alongside other groups like the Proto-Nupoid, Proto-Idoma, Proto-Tiv, forming a melting pot of cultures. These communities adapted to the diverse landscapes, from lush forests to open savannas, developing unique farming and hunting techniques. They were masters of their environment, and it is their interaction with the land that truly shaped their identity. And just in case Proto sounds too Greek, It simply describes the earliest or original form of a language. So look at proto like the first draft of a story. It's the early version of a language or group before it fully develops into what we recognize today. So when we say Proto-Yoruboid, we're talking about the original Yoruba speakers who were just getting started on their journey before evolving into the vibrant Yoruba culture we see now. Think of it as the early seeds of a plant that will grow into something amazing. Okay? Now back to history. Around 1000 to 500 BC, some groups started migrating from the Niger-Benue confluence, eventually settling in southwestern Nigeria. This wasn't a sudden exodus, but a gradual movement, driven by factors like farming, trade, and maybe even some local conflicts. By 800 AD, they had spread across southwestern Nigeria, forming different dialects but united by shared beliefs, rituals, and political systems, and of course, the beautiful Yoruba language. This, my friends, is how the foundation for the vibrant Yoruba civilization we know today was built. So, what about those Mecca and Egypt theories? Well, they make for interesting stories, but archaeology and linguistics paint a much clearer picture of our West African roots. Don't get me wrong, Yoruba culture is rich and complex, with influences from various sources over millennia, but the foundation itself is pure Ibile. The Yoruba story is one rooted in West Africa, shaped by its land, its people, and their incredible tenacity. Understanding our true origins isn't about rewriting history. It's about embracing the richness and resilience of our ancestors. It connects us to the land, our language, and everything that makes us uniquely Yoruba. Adebusuyi Lorukomi. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.